While the battle between former President Jacob Zuma and Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo has once again put the spotlight on the country's judiciary, the former president alleges that there are some judges who might be compromised. EFF leader Julius Malema, during his State of the Nation address debate and response, made a scathing attack on judges who reportedly received bribes from white businesses and warned of an uprising against the judiciary. Well, to speak to us now is former Constitutional Court Judge Johann Kriegler. Justice Kriegler, good evening, and thank you so much for your time tonight. It's not a unique situation that we're seeing unfold right now. We've had over the years different types of attacks on the judiciary. I'm keen to hear from you why it is that this continues to happen, despite perhaps what history tells us about these moments.
Good evening to you. Good evening to the viewers. In fact, this is an unprecedented level of attack. There have been criticisms and attacks of individual judges in the past because judgments went against public figures. But this is the first time that the leader of a political party, who is not a dissatisfied litigant, has seen fit to use the umbrella of Parliament to issue an unwarranted, irresponsible attack on the judiciary in general. What Mr. Zuma said and what Mr. Malema has now said involves all of the judges. They've mentioned no names. They therefore smear every judge in the country. They are challenged individually and together. Name one single judge. Don't hide behind a political platform and smear loyal, good South African judges with this kind of generalized attack. There is, of course, a motive for it. Mr. Zuma is desperately trying to avoid having to answer questions at the Commission. We know that he started off nearly 2 years ago by going to the Commission, giving a full day of evidence, a long story of how he had been the target of a plot and they were trying to kill him. He was then asked questions the next day. This is July 2019. He either couldn't remember or didn't know or didn't want to comment. And then on the third day, when counsel leading the evidence at the Commission asked some pressing questions, he objected through his counsel and they eventually withdrew from those proceedings. Then in October of 2019, he wanted more time for his counsel to consider. There was no problem with the judge or any of the judges. Then in November, he was ill. Then in January last year, he was too ill to go and give evidence. Never at any stage was there any mention of any judge or judges being suspect. The suggestion that Judge Zondo had to recuse himself as if it was a criminal case, which it isn't, was only thought up in the middle of last year. I suggest seriously that it is nothing other than another step in the Stalingrad defense of avoiding having to answer questions that are directed towards the damning evidence that has been given before the Zondo Commission. Mr. Zuma is trying to avoid that. He's creating a false noise on the left and the right, and Mr. Malema is helping him in that. It's simple. He must come, he must, like any other citizen, do his duty, obey a subpoena, obey a summons, go and give evidence. He doesn't have to answer anything that incriminates him. But the attack on Judge Zondo in the first instance, then on the Constitutional Court in the second instance, and now just generally somber an attack on the judiciary generally is a diversionary tactic that should not mislead the people of South Africa. It's a desperate dodge in order not to give evidence.
Justice Kriegler, one of the things that we've also seen, of course, at the Zondo Commission of Inquiry over the last couple of weeks is evidence in particular coming out of the state security and some of the investigations that were done there. And at least one judge has been identified as having received a bribe. Do you think that even such disclosures have emboldened then the attacks on the judiciary around impartiality and perpetuate narratives that members of the judiciary, at least some of them, have been captured?
I'm sure that, unfortunately, that snippet of evidence that was given before the commission did give rise to speculation as to whether there ever was such a project, whether the state capture project within state security falsely got money out of the fiscus saying that they were going to bribe judges, or whether they actually did bribe judges has never been determined. Let's find out. Let's have the name that is in that report. Let's see who it is. In the meantime, would politicians kindly stop smearing all of the judges by implication? If there was one judge, let's find out who it was. If there were two judges, let's find out. What is the evidence? Not people standing up in a public platform protected by parliamentary privilege and making generalized allegations against the judiciary generally. Let them say, this is the evidence, this is the judge concerned. Until that has happened, please, the judges are the referees in the political and administrative game that make our living together in a constitutional democracy possible. If you remove the referee from the game, we can no longer play.
Justice Kriegler, in this moment, what do you think should be the way forward? What is required? I mean, do we need the leader of the EFF to retract what he has said? How do we make amends? How do we make the situation right, especially for members of the judiciary who so many members of the public rely on to adjudicate over matters that affect their lives directly?
I'm sorry. If you expect a politician to retract and apologize, you may as well ask for elephants to fly. That will not happen. Therefore, I suggest that they are challenged to produce the evidence that they allege that they have, and if they do not produce that, that they be publicly disclosed as liars, as false maligners of the judiciary. Give them an opportunity to put their money where their mouths are. Let them produce the evidence. Let them give the names. And if they don't do that, let them be known to the public at large in South Africa as people who irresponsibly make false, damaging statements about a vital state institution. It's for the people of South Africa to condemn them ultimately if they cannot produce. If they do produce, it's for the law to take its course against the corrupt judges identified.
All right, let's leave it there for tonight. Former Constitutional Court Judge Johann Kriegler.